The top here is the article from the Journal of the American College of Cardiology that was published mid-2020. So it's a fairly recent article, and the title is Saturated Fats and Health, a Reassessment and Proposal for Food-Based Recommendations. This is a state-of-the-art review by this journal. And the author, Ronald Krauss, is usually when you look at these articles, you want to look at the last name in the list of authors. That's usually the person who gives kind of the most credence to behind this article. And he's a pretty well-known guy. If you just Google search his name, he has his own Wikipedia page. He's also got another page from the University of California, San Francisco. They give a little profile on him if you want to look into what work he's done. But most importantly, if you look at his publications, he's got a lot of publications. If you scroll down to the bottom, he's got over 450 publications. So this guy is probably pretty reputable. He's a medical doctor and he does a lot of research as well. Probably safe to listen to the advice in this article. So let's go over what they cover. So let's see. The authors of the article start by saying that since the 1980s, it has been recommended that saturated fatty acid intake be limited to less than 10% of total calories as a means of reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. So since the 1980s, this is a long time, since over 30 years, they've been told to reduce saturated fat intake, and not only to reduce it, but reduce it quite a lot by less than 10% of total calories. And so the question that the authors want to answer is, what is the relationship between saturated fat consumption, both types and amounts, and the risk of cardiovascular disease in adults? And, they looked through the evidence and presented what their analysis is. So in the beginning, they just kind of give you a little summary. They looked at studies that all summed up together cover 400,000 people, both in observational studies and randomized controlled trials. And what they found is that no evidence that reduction in saturated fat consumption may reduce cardiovascular disease incidence or mortality. It's surprising. Why is that? And in fact, in addition to that, they find some reports where actually a significant, albeit a mild, beneficial effect to increasing saturated fat consumption. So to them, they say the basis for consistently recommending a diet low in saturated fat is unclear. They're questioning why are people saying you should reduce saturated fat intake when there's no evidence that it reduces cardiovascular disease risk or mortality, and there might even be a beneficial effect. It's very, very unclear. And so let's go take a deeper look at the evidence.